All right, thanks for joining me. In today's chat, we're going to be talking about what's happening in Odoo's Buffalo office. And a quick introduction, my name is Nicholas Kaczynski, and I am the director of Odoo US East, primarily the Buffalo office. All right, let's jump into our chat today. So for an agenda, we're going to talk about the people, we're going to talk about the space, right? The office, the environment, the views, right? What's happening in the city of Buffalo, things like that. Then we're going to take a dive into the business performance, right? Looking at the numbers from the sales team. We're going to look at the different KPIs that the BSA team is adhering to and how they're performing against those. Technical support, R&D, and do a general wrap up there. We'll look at hiring objectives after that. Talk a little bit about who and how many people we've hired thus far, and what the expectation is looking forward into 2022. And touch on culture. Of course, it's a pillar here. It's something that we prioritize, and we'll give you some insight into how we think about culture and what our priorities are within that context. And we'll wrap things up with a Q&A. All right, let's dive in. So the people. Here's a little graph that I put together to give you some insight into our hiring trajectory over the course of the last 15 months or so. So you can see starting in June 2020, we started the office with 8 people. We stagnated in that area for the most of the summer, given COVID was a thing, and also when I was the only person here ramping a team and getting everyone trained, building the culture, the environment. It was something that kept me pretty occupied. But starting in September, October, I started to gain a little bit more bandwidth, and I could allocate more time to hiring, which then took me into November, December, and by January we had 16 people in the office across 2 teams. So we had a sales team, direct sales, as well as a BSA team. And then I had actually hired a BSA manager in January, and when that person stepped on board, it was able to help, of course, provide more resources for hiring, which allowed for us to accelerate our growth a bit. And that's why you see the jump to 21 people come March 2021. And then fast forward a little bit more, April-ish, April/early May, we promoted a direct sales team lead, which again allowed for us to open the door and have another resource to hiring, which accelerated things even further. And since then, we've promoted a few other team leads as well, which has allowed us to see a pretty significant climb from June onward to October. So we nearly doubled in that time span to get to about 80 people, which is where we're at today. Looking into that, let's take a look at what those 80 people look like. On my screen here, you see this is about 60 people or so at what was Odoo Buffalo's first annual park day. So we rented out a space in a pretty famous park in the city, where we had both an indoor and an outdoor component to it, and we held outdoor what was the first Odoo Olympics. So it was a series of games that we played. We divided people into about 10 teams each, and they competed against one another, different people from different teams on each team, Olympic team. So yeah, we had that, and we had a lunch, we had different events as well, and then we went inside and had what was considered the first ever Odoo Day Rave, where we had a DJ who played some music and had some dance competitions, things like that. So it was a really fun day, and it really helped bring the team together, as you can see here in this photo. A few other pictures of the people, right? It's an incredible group of people that we've assembled across all different disciplines, all different teams. On the left, you got people hanging out outside of work. You have, of course, the classic golf cart with some kegs of beer there in the back. We have different sports teams as well in the office. So we had a softball team over the summer that actually wound up winning the championship. So we usually have anywhere between 10 and 15 participants weekly there, where we get together on the Tuesday nights and have some drinks and play softball. And now in the winter, we've transitioned into a soccer team. So we again have between 10 and 15 people there showing up and hanging out after work, kicking the ball around. Here's a picture of our office, the newly renovated portion of our office, where we have a view of Lake Erie, and you can see the desks, distributed people, and trying to preserve COVID-friendly climate, of course, but hope to fill them in soon. So let's talk a little bit about the different teams we have in the office. We have direct sales, we have business systems analysts, we have technical support, we have customer success, and full stack engineers, and lastly, second last, recruitment and office administration. The list keeps growing and it will continue to grow as we look into 2022. I'd say for the most part, between direct sales, BSAs, technical support, and CST, the personnel is pretty evenly distributed. And as we look into 2022, we'll be looking at things like partnership recruitment, account management, the channel, and perhaps further deepening our personnel when it comes to HR/office administration. So the space is one of my was one of my favorite experiences as I was thinking about setting up the office. I landed on this space here. What you're seeing on my screen is a Seneca One Tower. So this, of course, in the background is the city of Buffalo. For those of you unfamiliar, it's a city in upstate, I should say Western New York, with a population of around 300,000 people in the immediate proper city area, and then in the outskirts around 1.2 million. Right, there's tons of universities in the area, around 250,000 university students in a 150-mile radius. Things like RIT, University of Rochester, UB, Syracuse, Cornell, Buff State, Canisius, the list goes on. And if you look off into the left a little bit, you'll see we're right on the border of Canada. So Toronto is about a 50-minute drive north, so we have access into all of the territory south of Toronto from a recruitment standpoint as well. The tower is an old bank converted into a tech hub, which a lot of the new technology companies that are emerging in Buffalo, they're relocating here, and we're taking floors. And we're on the 26th floor, in case you were wondering. To the right there, you see the stadium. This is the Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays actually were playing there for the last 2 years. The Bisons normally play there, but we definitely watch games and drink beers in our office when we can. Here's a view from our office of the actual city proper. You can see cool view of lots of buildings, things like that. This is an actual view of our technical support team taken a few weeks ago in their space, and you can see City Hall in the background. This is a view of the lake. Here's a view of our kitchen. And I included this view because I really enjoy it. It's something that one of our developers worked on, but did a great job of reorganizing our network and our racks. And lastly, here's a view of the sales floor in their newly renovated space overlooking the lake. All right, let's take a jump into business performance. Direct sales, so actual MRR versus performance. You can see, of course, in the beginning of the year, things were moving along, but they weren't exactly where we wanted them to be. Starting in April, the energy started to really pick up, right? That's when we had more resources to recruit. People started to see the growth of the team, and the momentum and the energy in the office really started to gain some traction, and we saw that reflected in the numbers, where we achieved about 95% of our target in April. We took a slight dip in May, and then as of June, we've been accelerating nicely, with 78% in June, up to 88% in July, 146% in August, and thus far in September, 112%. And if you look at the actual raw MRR numbers, right, in May, 9,800, June, 12,297, July, 14, August, 23,300, and September, 17,929. And I think we'll maybe clear 18,000. We still have a few hours left in our September month. So important thing is that we're seeing an upward trajectory, and that's exactly what we want to see. The momentum is there, and it feels really good, and everybody in the office is super psyched about it. As far as NRR goes, it's been a bit of a bumpier ride. You can see our trajectory there. But again, as of May, that's when we started to see some uptick, where we got ourselves sort of above the 75% range, rather consistently for the first time. Almost hit 100% in June, July 78, and then August we blew it out of the water with 195%. And thus far in September, we're trending a little bit under 100% as well for NRR. So let's take a look at the performance of the BSA team. The team today is about 25 people with 2 team leads. We have 1 manager and 2 team leads. Total billable hours over the course of the year, we're at 2,477 so far year to date. You'll see that our graph here starts in March because we didn't really have BSAs off of ramp and billing until March. So really over the course of just the last 7 months or so, we were able to put that on the board. And if you look to the right, you'll see the billability graph, and you'll see the upward trajectory that we're on, which is definitely a positive thing. Thus far, they've put 20 projects live, 61 smileys, with a 95% satisfaction rating, and 102 total projects under management. So that's going from 0 in the beginning of the year to a team of 25, where we're gaining that sort of traction. That's what we want to see. Technical support, we have 14 people on the team. They've experienced 1,100% growth in 2021. They've done 1,774 tickets. And that is, in a nutshell, what the technical team has achieved. R&D, we only have 2, but lots of personality. You can see on the right we have John, on the left we have John, and on the far right we have Bargoff. Bargoff is singing karaoke at a recent event there. These 2 individuals have helped over 50 unique customers in North America, right? They're working on customizing databases as well as migrations. And they're billing at 50% within their first 3 months, which is a great achievement for both of them, considering they're 2 Lone Rangers here in the office, and they're working collaboratively with one another. So let's take a moment to talk about culture. My thoughts on culture. Autonomy is key. So the Buffalo office has always seen itself as being an autonomous place, right? We're pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, and everybody here, especially the early birds who started in the early days, right? We didn't have an established knowledge network, so we had to take it upon ourselves to teach ourselves the software, to become motivated by what we're doing in order and sustain that in order to achieve results and performance, and that's across every team, and that's what we embrace, and that's a key part of our culture. And it's that same autonomy, taking ownership of the work we do, that's going to allow us to continue to grow quickly. Transparency. So it's something that I try to do, and I encourage everyone else to do, is to be transparent about what's going on, why decisions are being made, what are the consequences, what is the risk, in order to keep everyone on the same page. When everyone's on the same page, everyone's going to be rowing in the same direction, and we're going to reach our end goal much more efficiently and much more effectively than if everybody's distributed and having different feelings. So for that reason, transparency is one of the top items on my list, because without it, we're not one. Adaptability. An office that goes from 8 people 15 months ago to 80 people today, right? That office in June 2020 is a totally different office than what we are today in September 2021, right? The things that worked back then don't work now on just about every level you can think of. And in order to continue to progress and continue to be motivated in what we do, we need to be adaptable. We need to always be willing to rethink our approach to things, and to be flexible and willing to make changes and to execute on those changes. For that reason, adaptability is top on my list. Intellectual curiosity and passion. So allowing for people to have time or to create time in their workday in order to explore the things that interest them in the context of our job. Perfect example, I'm sitting here in a room now with 2 people who are recording me, who are on the technical support team, and they've been given the autonomy and have been given the privilege to explore those things that interest them and let them run with it. And that's how I think when you put people in that position, they are more likely to end up adding value to the company than if you keep them confined into some sort of box. Collaboration. We do our best in the office to do events and to have group outings and to allow for teams to collaborate with one another in order to get to know one another, to work more cohesively with one another, because at the end of the day, that's going to help build a better company and a better culture, something that people are proud of and that they're excited to participate in. Hiring objectives. So as we look forward into 2022, we have a lot of work to do, lots of ramping up to do, and here's what we're thinking. So the objective is going to be to nearly double our headcount. Like I said, today we're at 80. As we're looking at our hiring figures into November 2021, we're going to be around 87, and then extrapolate uh, out into 2000 December 2022, where we'll be around 204 people. Lots of work to do, and of course, these numbers are always subject to change. We stay adaptable, as mentioned in my cultural pyramid, but yeah, this is the objective that sits in front of us, and we're going to do everything we can to keep the team organized in a way that will allow us to hit these numbers. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation or quick synopsis on what's happening in Buffalo and who we are, what we do, where we come from, why we're here. If you have any questions at all, I'll be more than happy to address those. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.
Hello. So we are live now
Hello?
with Nick. Hello, Nick. That was a great presentation. So I have a couple of questions. How are you? First of all,
I'm well.
excellent. So I
Thank
see
you.
it.
And you?
Pretty good. I mean, it's super early right here in San Francisco. 6:45 a.m. to be exact. But yeah, I see a couple of questions. Let's see. So Priscilla, she asks right here on YouTube, what's your future plan? Will you form indirect team eventually? Um,
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that in time, Odoo Buffalo will have all of the core teams that are required to operate our business, which includes, right? Of course, we have a lot of teams today that already meet that criteria, but we're going to eventually go into expanding into additional sales teams, partnership recruitment, channel, and that will be both direct and indirect. And right now we have CST, which is only direct. Eventually, we'll go indirect as well for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So there you guys, there you see, guys, a lot of opportunity for growth. So here's another really good question from Renee. What was your biggest challenge in 2021? Opening the office, pandemic hit. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge that all startup companies have experienced and would attest to. It's the challenge of creating the knowledge network. So it's easy to find office space. It's easy to right
Right.
to put into motion a lot of the pieces that you need in the beginning to get started. Laptops, monitors, desks, etc. That's the easy stuff. What's hard is to create an inertia around culture
Okay.
in order to get people inspired every day to show up to work, to be engaged with the product, to learn that product, and to be passionate to the point where they start to disseminate and help distribute the knowledge to new hires. So it's like starting an old car. You have to hand crank
Right.
for a while, and then eventually it catches. And it took like 6 or 8 months, and it can be incredibly demotivating, right? It can be really like you'll put all your energy into something for a few months, and then it'll kind of not work as you had hoped, or the traction won't be as what you expected, and you got to get back up that day, and you got to go back in and try again, but my God, when it catches and you start to see a room of 80 people sort of all feeling good and passionate about what's happening, that's awesome. And that was the challenge that I faced, and we eventually overcame.
Right. I can see that totally. It's a low start. It's like super slow start, but once it catches speed, you get the ball rolling and it's all good, right? So
Exactly.
a couple of more questions. So I can see that someone asking a little bit of I don't know if this is personal or if it's maybe just in the office, but what is your favorite memory in 2021 at Odoo Buffalo? Okay, so related to the office.
That's my favorite memory. Odoo 2021 would probably be, I mean, there's the professional side, which is,
Of course.
hitting our target. We blew our target out of the water. I think both in August as well as in September, we did very well. So, right, that was sort of a testament to the fact that things are going in the right direction, which after a year plus of head down trying to figure out how to make this work, that felt really good, and sort of having the close of that month hit and being like, okay, we freaking did it. That was awesome. But then on the social/cultural side, I'd say that the recent event we had, Park Day 2021, was pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty wild party. I mean, we did a lot of,
That's good.
did a lot of partying. We were celebrating, what we've created, and that's seeing everyone together and enjoying themselves and having fun and making friends and building like this, competitive sports team that we are. That's how I
Right.
see it. That was also a great memory, and it stuck with me.
Right, right. Amazing, amazing stuff. I mean, I can see, building the team from the ground up, and finally seeing, this maybe that we'd had for a long time in San Francisco, but it's very, very different, right? So, you've been here in San Francisco a couple of times. I mean, I know it was not your home base, but what do you think is the main difference, right now, from the San Francisco office to the Buffalo office? If someone is debating, maybe, I don't know, transferring, or maybe applying for this or that one, what would you think will be the main, I don't know, factor?
Sure. Well, it all depends on what you want out of a right trajectory in terms of your career. I mean, right, Buffalo's 80 people. It's new.
Okay.
There are pros and cons. In a newer office, you're gonna have more opportunity, right? There's more open positions. There's a much thinner hierarchy because we haven't had enough time to really mature and fill those managerial slash team lead positions.
Amazing.
So you have that going for you. From a competition standpoint, if you're an experienced Odooer and you're looking to maybe transfer here, of course, you're going to come in with a level of knowledge that's probably going to outpace a lot of the office for the simple reason that we're still starting, or we're in the earlier stages of development. People haven't had enough time to mature.
Makes sense.
The cons, of course, are it's less established. San Francisco's 400 plus people, Buffalo's 80. I mean, right? The system that the Odoo office sits on top of has had 10 plus years to refine itself, to iterate, to
Makes sense.
evolve in order to really mature. While the Buffalo system is still in its infancy, right? It's only about 15 months old, and
Right.
and we're changing every day. So that's those are some considerations, right? It all trickles back down to the risk versus reward model, and depending on where you want to be in your career, one office is going to serve you better, and one would not serve as well. So that's that's my analysis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. It totally makes sense. Okay, perfect. So we have I think maybe we can squeeze one question. I see John. He has one pretty good question. I have the same challenge when you were talking about, the approaching the culture. So he says, what was your approach to tackle this culture building challenge? What did you do? Like, did you take any specific steps? Maybe a methodology? Maybe you read a book or a couple of books? I don't know.
Sure. There's no secret sauce. It's what I found to be most effective was um, explaining things, and that kind of goes into transparency. Transparency to me was huge because just a company is going to have to make a lot of decisions as it's growing. Some decisions people will be happy with, others people will not. And what is important and what I feel like unites people is understanding. So when every decision that I would make, I would always be sure to take a few minutes to explain it to my team, especially when we were young. I would explain, here are all the variables that are right in our peripheral right now as we're thinking about making this decision. Here are the consequences of the various different directions we can choose from. We choose this direction for these reasons in order to avoid these risks or these consequences. And do you want and you don't want to just explain to people what decision you made, but you want to explain why you made it, and you want them to understand, because when they understand, then they get behind it. And right, the leadership in organizations, they're not crazy. They're a lot of times they can seem to be sort of out there, um, because they never take the time to close the gap between what they're doing and why they did it. And by bringing everyone on the same page, that helps, right, solidify the the sense of belonging, the uh, and the right, their relationship with that job, and that's what fuels retention. That's what fuels them digging into the product and feeling like they're in a place they're happy with, and that has tremendous implications long term when it comes to scaling. That would be my one tip that I picked up, if that makes sense.
Right. It completely makes sense. I can see, people, as you said, getting behind your ideas and backing you up. Like the more they know, the more they understand the ins and outs. It totally
Exactly.
makes sense. So I see a couple of people. Hello from Coahuila, Mexico. John says thank you. Cool, thanks. And congrats on the early success. I don't know if we have a couple of minutes or we should be maybe wrapping it up. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for the presentation, for taking the time and to answering a couple of questions. And yeah, we wish you a lot of success. And for the people right here on the chat, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna be jumping to another meeting, and thank you, Nick, again.
Right on. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.